Great. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I have 9 o'clock. So those of you that are here, thank you for being here, ready to go. I'm sure other people will be joining as we go along. So welcome. Um, that's me. I'm Jeremy Cherney. I'm the founder and president of Tobin Solutions, and I get to do one of my favorite things today, which is and one of our commitments at Tobin is to educate people, educate and empower. So happy to be able to do that today, and hopefully you'll learn something here, and not just like hopefully learn, but I'm out to like ignite your curiosity today. Like I want you just be like, what is this stuff? What? Tell me more. Tell me more. And along the way, I want you to discover solutions to some problems you've got, some opportunities you can take, something you can do. And along the way, we'll have some questions and answers, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. Just make sure I have the chat window up here too. So welcome, and let's get ready to go. So we're here today to talk about Microsoft 365, which has been around for a long time. Before it was that, it was like there was something called Business Productivity Online Suite, and I don't know, I just thought this was kind of cute to see their logos and things through the year. And now with Copilot, they've now got Microsoft 365 with that new swooshy thing, and I don't know, it's kind of fun to see how Microsoft is changing. Um, for us, it's always been like a Swiss Army knife. It's always been a great product for that. It's solved a lot of issues for people, and it's provided a natural migration for a lot of things that people want to do as the world has changed. So I'm sure most of you know this, but if you don't, if you're new to this, it's a monthly subscription service. So instead of buying, package once a year or once every 10 years, you pay monthly, and they've got different tiers of service, and Microsoft hosts everything. They've got your applications, they've got your data, they've, all on their servers in the cloud, and they've got guarantees and all that. And it's great. There are so many tools inside of this, and that's what I want to be sharing you today. Or there's a few tools I'm sure you know about, and some you use every day, and some you've heard about, and some that I think will be new today for you. So buckle up. Um, Before we jump in, though, I want to do a short exercise here. So grab a piece of paper or pencil, something to write with. And let's maximize your value from this webinar, right? Don't just have this be some tips and tricks. I mean, that's nice. Those are good. But really, what's going to make a difference here? Because you're going to spend an hour with me, and I'm going to be rapid firing a lot of stuff at you. So just take a moment. Think about the different areas of your business. Come up with one or two ideas, three ideas, whatever you want, and consider the opportunities. What is the outcome you're trying to deal in that area? Where do you see a gap in a system where it's manual or prone to mistakes? How can you help your team be more successful? How can you win the money game? How can you automate things, improve delivery? Where are you doing it manually now? And you always think, is there some way to automate this? Maybe it's a spreadsheet you got, or some weird other email process that we all do to copy, paste, move, do all that. Maybe it's a bigger business problem. Just come up with a couple of ideas and let those kind of percolate as we go through the day here. Give you a few more seconds to write that down. All right, great. So I want to jump in a little bit. As you embark on this, you want to know, what you're embarking on. And that's, at Tobin, one of our commitments in our customer bill of rights is what we call education options and recommendations. And this is an area we want to educate you on, is what does it mean when you're using Microsoft 365? What is Microsoft's responsibility, and what is your responsibility? And if you look in the red box up there, what's your responsibility is all your information and data, all your device management, how you manage your accounts and identities, and in part how that Microsoft identity infrastructure might intersect with your own directory infrastructure. That's all your responsibility for all of that. So you want to know about that, right? You want to see that, hey, that's something notice, that's something that Microsoft is not going to be responsible for. They'll do all the rest. So as you go through this, we want to be making sure that we follow best practices, that all your data is secure, that it's gonna not it's gonna be safe, and you're gonna be able to protect it and not expose yourself to something that you didn't want to expose yourself to, because that's the thing that can happen with these solutions. You can inadvertently, the wrong person can get the information. Hey, we just saw that recently in the news. So the Microsoft has these 365 small business offerings. This is what it is as of today. It actually is going up April 1st, 5%. So if you didn't know that, you can expect that to be passed along somewhere in your billings at some point, that now goes up. But it's still a pretty good deal when you think about all those tools. And I think when you see that, you're going to see it's a real bargain. If you can leverage some of these, it'll be well worth it. So they got the basic plan, the standard plan, the business plan, and the premium plan. Premium plan is nice because it also has the advanced security built into it. There's security built into the others, but there's more granular security available in the business premium, which could be important here. But fundamentally, they're going to give you what this table shares, and a lot of you have different licensing in these different areas and are doing different features of them. The things I'm going to show you are available in almost all the tiers, and where they're not. So Tobin wants to be your Swiss Army knife. That's how we can assist, with 365. So that helps with security, training, help desk, setup administration. This is not a set it and forget it kind of thing with 365. You want to be actively knowing what's going on in there and managing it accordingly. How do you leverage, 365 to solve these business problems? How do you map out your business with these? Strategy, planning, all these other things we can assist with. If you have any questions or anything like that, licensing management, of course, and all that. But fundamentally, we want to make sure your shared responsibilities are fulfilled. It takes something. I think one of the security books alone at Microsoft is like 900 pages long. One of the things that's great that some people, they don't always think about is 365 is fully mobile. Almost everything you do in Microsoft 365, there's an app for it for your phone or tablet, for easy access from a web browser, from a computer, from anywhere. So, for some of you where maybe, you're struggling with a VPN or something like that, to get back at your office to open up documents and things like that. I mean, you might need to for certain applications, but if it's to go in and see spreadsheets or certain other things, you can probably get it set up so you can see it in Microsoft 365 and not mess around with that. If you're like, hey, I want to run out, I'm going on vacation, I might have to check into the office, but I don't really want to bring my laptop. Again, if you have your phone, your tablet, you're going to be able to see all this information with you. So it's handy that way. And it seems like it's tough to turn it off these days anyways. So at least let's make it something to put in your pocket. Guest access is another thing, right? You've probably seen this a million times in your own life where you're, at school or with your families or whatever, people are sharing documents, links to documents. Sometimes they're attaching documents, but in some cases that's kind of old school, right? Now you get links to things you see with Google Docs all the time for school, and the kids here sign up for this form and all that kind of thing. How are they doing that? And how does Microsoft do that? It's what is called a guest access feature. You can share externally. It's something you can control if it's something you want to be able to do. Some people want to open that up and say, yeah, you can go share these documents with people. And it's not just sending them a document. I mean, you can still do that, but this is actually a link to the document. It could be a read-only link. It could be a read-write link. And that's just as documents. But you're going to see most of the applications I'm going to show you, like SharePoint and Planner and these others, you can share with your customers. You can share with your vendors. You can share with other people outside your organization. And it's pretty handy. One of the things that is kind of cool when you put your data there, the more data you put under Microsoft's prying eyes, so to speak, not in a negative way, but in the sense that, you can have it be seen all by the system, is the Microsoft Graph. And that is powerful. The more your data is connected, the more you can search across things. Instead of having all these little pockets of information that don't know about each other, now you start to put these things out in Microsoft, and the graph allows you to search and connect and create links. And as we get in the world of AI and Copilot, it's a very, very powerful model that starts to develop. I mentioned security before. There is something called Microsoft Secure Score. I should update this slide because it definitely looks newer. But the thing is, it is Microsoft tells you what it thinks the security of your tenant is, how it's organized, how it's set up, how your password security, things like that. And it gives you a rating, and it offers suggestions and things like that. So it's something you want to know about, and someone should be managing that, whether it's you or somebody else, to say, hey, what can we do here to improve our score, to always keep ourselves on the best security footing. Because we are at battle, let me tell you, there's a war out there. One thing people don't think about, all of this stuff, people are still used to using Office. They open up their computer and they've got Outlook. It is available via web browser anywhere. And sometimes it's nice. It's a little faster sometimes. It's a little easier if your computer's acting wonky or something like that. The web browser might be an easy way to get in and use that, or if you're on someone else's computer and you want to log in. And the same thing, there's apps for a lot of these things. So not just a web browser, but there's an actual Outlook app for your phone. And I think a lot of you may know that, but some of you may not. You may be using your company email on your phone, but you may be using the native Apple email client or the native Android email client that you're using. And those can talk to it, but that's distinct from using the Outlook app. There's different features you can get in the Outlook app. There's greater security. And it's also what we recommend people use if they're going to allow their team members to access email from their phones, is to use this, because then you're in control of your data. If something ever happens, the phone's lost or stolen, or that person's no longer employed, you can lock that information out and lock it out easier and claw it back without messing with the rest of their phone. So we recommend it for just that reason. Email was never designed with security in mind from its beginnings. And unfortunately, because its underpinnings are shaky, they have to add all these other things on top of it. If you really want to send out encrypted emails to somebody and know that it's an encrypted message that's all the way through to them, you would use something like this that you get, Office Message Encryption. It's inside of, if you've got the business premium, and you can add it on to others, and you go into your options and you can say encrypt, and then you can brand it with your company logo and all that. And you may have gotten these, in your own life from banks or from healthcare, companies, proving you're you kind of a thing. So these are there, and that's a nice thing. For those of you need it, for some of you that are still need to be PCI compliant or HIPAA compliant, or any other compliance. No one wants to be known for someone who mailed out credit card numbers and social security numbers and things like that, right? So if you want to have to send that stuff, this gives you a way to do it securely. Microsoft OneNote is a very cool tool. If you haven't used it, it's available as a program on your desktop and on your phone. I like to think of it as like a big binder, those big white binders that people have on the wall with, when you look at it on the side, it's got all these tabs coming out the side. It's like that. You can create notebooks, you can create tabs, and you can just stuff it with all kinds of information. It can look like a scrapbook, it can look organized. It can be any way you want, but it's really handy. And one way it's really handy, do you have a standard operating procedure manual for your company? Where are the policies on certain things? What do people do on a snow day? If people have this, if your team, the critical people have this, and they're outside the office, they've got that SOP everywhere they need it available. So it's a cool way to organize that stuff, or any other information, training manuals, how-tos, client information. I mean, it's a notebook. You can create lots of notebooks, you can create lots of tabs, you can organize this. You can integrate pieces to this. It integrates with other applications. It's nifty, so give it a try. Microsoft SharePoint, some of you who have maybe started to move things to Microsoft, more things from what you might have had on premise are starting to use SharePoint and OneDrive. SharePoint is, what used to be called like an old school intranet, where you'd have an internal web server and you might have documents and, message of the day and, team calendars and things like that. This is all of that up in the cloud. So you can use it both ways. So you can use it and you can put files up in documents. You can create folders and put documents up there. And this is where it becomes mobile. Once your documents are up there, now you can see them from any device you have access to with the proper security and all of that. And you don't have to be tethered back to a VPN or anything at the office. You also get to do things like co-sharing. So now if you have a document and you're in it and you want someone else to be in it at the same time, you can do that once it's up in SharePoint. So that's another handy feature. No more saying, hey, who's in the budget spreadsheet? Can someone get out of the budget spreadsheet? I got to put my numbers in. You can go, you don't have to do that anymore. And you can sync it down if you're going to go, if you're like, hey, I got to hit the road, I'm going to be on a plane, I don't have internet access. You can sync these down using OneDrive. So you have them on your laptop. When you go, you update them, and then you go back to the office and connect to the internet. They're synced for everybody. It's like Dropbox. People use Dropbox. It's very similar. So, and that's, there's ways of moving. That might be one of your concerns is how do I move? I talked about that gap before. One of your gaps might be like, oh my God, I have so much data and so many folders, and how am I ever going to move it all? Well, that's like something that, we could assist with, and that's like how you would fill that gap. We have a process for getting your things up to SharePoint and OneDrive. Loop is really interesting, and I would love to see people use it more because, sometimes I was going to do like an Oscar style in memoriam for like products that are no longer supported by Microsoft, that have kind of gone off. And this is one I think I'd like to see stick around, and it's kind of neat. So these loops, and you can use them like they're in different programs already if you haven't seen them. They call them a loop, and they're like either a little bulleted list or a checklist or a numbered list or a paragraph or any of these kinds of things. And then you create these loops, and they only work in certain applications right now. So you can put them in Outlook or Teams or OneNote or in Microsoft Whiteboard. But when you do it, it's now a live active thing. So if you create a little list in there, like, hey, what color should our new t-shirts be? Red, black, white, green. You can put that in and make a voting thing or whatever you want. And now when you email that out, when people update that loop, they don't have to respond to the email. They're just updating that loop. And now anywhere that loop is, even if you copy that into a team site or you have a page where you see your loops, because you can create what are called canvases and workspaces, or workspaces rather, of loops. It's a very cool thing. So if you're somebody that's adventurous, this kind of thing, and you're somebody who like used to like wikis, or you kind of like OneNote, but maybe you kind of like something that's a little more modern in some ways, check it out. But I think it solves some real problems for people, especially trying to find the data, like which is the current list. As long as you're using that loop component, it is always the current list. So it's nifty. I'm very excited and passionate about that if you can't tell. So SharePoint team sites, I was talking about SharePoint before. This is like an internal web page for your team. It's not public. Only your team can see it. You can create different SharePoint team sites for different departments with security if you only want certain people to see them. But it's more than storing documents. It can be a place to expose that information, even if it's just there's a little, they have these little widgets you put in to kind of design this. It's pretty simple for some basic out of the box stuff. And one of them is like a recent documents updated. So if you had a library in SharePoint and you had you want people to know what documents are updated, they would just open up your team site and they would see these are the most recent documents right at the top. So it's kind of handy that way. So that could solve, especially with some people, a lot of people still work remotely or hybrid or, wherever they are. It's mobile. So again, if you're trying to stay connected or try to get some easy information for people, SharePoint is a great way to do that. It's a great way to keep the team engaged. We've got some people in different areas of the world at Tobin, so we put the different uh, uh, local weather. So, just kind of just another way to stay connected. Microsoft Teams, I think a lot of people know what Teams is by now, or pretty close to it. COVID got us very used to applications like Zoom and Teams and Google Meetups or whatever it's called and all that kind of thing. So, people are pretty used to what these are now. Microsoft Teams is Microsoft's version. It comes with a lot of the stuff that you have. You can unbundle it if you're ever going to use it. If you want to keep it, or you don't have it and you want to add it, you can do it too. And it's got one-to-one chats. And I emphasize this, it's encrypted. I don't know if you saw in the last few months, our government is warning us, like, do not trust our regular phone system for regular phone calls and regular texting. You need to use something that's encrypted if you want to assure that it's private. And Teams is a one-to-one chats are encrypted. So if you're texting with your team right now, I would invite you to say, hey, let's start using the one-to-one chats. Besides, then you're also in control of that data. Anywhere you open up the chat, you're going to see that information. So it's good. They have got the group chats and the video and voice calls. Some people use this as kind of like, you'll hear like the frontline worker group of people, people that are out there working with people, directly, B2B, B2C, but they're right there with the customer. And people use Teams as a way for that person to stay connected, to get quick access to files they need, to see information they need, to quickly message people that they need to, and it's handy that way. So that might be a nice way to solve it. Or you might just use it inside your organization like we do for chatting and sharing information and happy birthdays and all that. So we use it for team meetings. That's handy. We do a quarterly team meeting. We do that all through Teams to make sure we're all connected. So it's handy that way. If you want to use Microsoft Teams phone, you can do that too. So Microsoft Teams, you can extend the Teams experience beyond the basic chat and voice video calls to real world phone numbers and a real world telephone and actually use it like a PBX system. We've got some clients that really enjoy the experience with that, some not so much. It's like anything, your mileage may vary with any of these technologies, but a lot of people use it. And if you just need basic stuff, or some people use it like they're like, hey, I don't really use our phone system anymore. We're pretty much all using our cell phones and stuff, but we still want to have like one or two numbers for people to call into. They can shift into this and know that they've got call there. There's also a Teams add-on license. They call it the conferencing option. So when you have Teams and you want to do meetings where people can call in, you can add that conferencing option to Teams. Microsoft Planner is a project management tool. It's kind of follows that, what do they call them? Kanban style boards that are kind of a popular way of organizing thing, where you create these buckets or containers, and then in containers you've got the different tasks, and each task has its due dates and who's assigned to it, and notes, and a little checklist if you want, and all of that. And then you can mark things as done, and you can assign them to people and track them all through here. And it's available through the web and from your phone. So it's a really handy project management system. You might be using a spreadsheet for some of these things. Not a problem, but this is kind of a different way of doing it. It's handy. It's much more friendly to use than a spreadsheet. You get a lot more information. And it's hooked into Microsoft, the users. So they, it's hooked into them. So you can, if you assign a task to somebody and they go into their planner, they'll see they've got these tasks assigned in that. So there's built-in accountability. We could all use a little more accountability, I think, and sometimes it's not so much the accountability as they don't want to be accountable. It's like our systems are too difficult to use. How can we make it easier? So this is great. This is also mobile. Again, the phone, you can be out in the warehouse doing things, whatever you want to do, and checking in on stuff, run your business from the beach. So I highly recommend checking out Planner. Very cool app. If you want something heavy, more heavy lifting, Microsoft has Microsoft Project. They've always had Microsoft Project. They have it as a subscription now, and they've got different plans and web versions and all of that. So you can integrate and have kind of a Project Lite piece, which is pretty inexpensive. And then you can, if you got some real projects where you need that kind of tool, you can go all the way up to their enterprise version. So you get that in there as well. Visio. I don't know if you've seen Visio before. A lot of you have seen Visio. You've certainly seen flowcharts before and things like that, or org charts and all that. And you've seen people produce these. A lot of times they're producing with Visio. So that's a Microsoft application. There's a desktop app. There's a web app. The web app is free. And then there's a kind of a light version you get, and then they've got, more premium versions that have advanced features. But you can do some pretty cool stuff with the light version. Like at Tobin, we use that. So we've got some processes at Tobin, like every business has its process. Like we've got our sales process, right? Every business hopefully has a sales process. We have ours documented with flowchart, and we write it out, and that's handy, right? You can understand. And if you haven't done an exercise like that, I highly recommend it to understand really how it is, because it really helps you understand where you're at and any opportunities you want to make. But then you can map it out. And then the Visio is on the web, so you can share it with people. So everybody from the new person you're hiring to the sales manager can pop it open and see the flow. But what's really cool is behind each one of those flows, you can link it to a document in SharePoint. So in this example, you've got like the credit form at the top here. You can have that linked to a SharePoint document. So when they click on it, it opens up the SharePoint document and they can see the whole process with screenshots or videos or whatever, however you do it, whatever that link is to, it's right there. I mean, that is hot stuff. And it's not like, I mean, it takes something, like you got to sit down and go through it. But when you do it, I mean, think about when you onboard people, when you're looking for areas for improvement, when you're working, at Tobin, we have one of our values is continuous improvement. You got to know where you are to know, to see what the opportunities are. So I highly recommend doing this. It's free. You've got it. Check it out. Microsoft Forms, another free tool you get. People sometimes use spreadsheets to try and gather information, or, they'll use, emails and they'll try, gather stuff and whatever. This is a tool specifically designed for forms. So you can go in, you can create a form, you can create different questions. You can, say, is it a yes, no question? Is it a multiple choice? Is it a text question or whatever? You can have it be where it flows. If they answer a question one way, it'll then take them to another question. So you can do like call or question flow, and then you can report on it. You can get detailed information about it. You can use this in so many different ways, and it's super handy. You can export it out to Excel ultimately if you want to do additional analysis, but you can send these out and you can share them with your customer. How many of you have been wanting to do like a customer feedback form or a survey, or after you do like a project and you want to send out like how do we do on that project? You can create a real quick survey and send them a link. You can truly, I mean, you can have it done quick and dirty in 15 minutes. If you want to look a little more fancy, you might spend a little more time, but it's really that easy. And so check it out. Microsoft To Do is another application Microsoft has for specifically centered around people that love to-do lists. Some people are to-do people and they love lists, and that's how they manage their life. And this is great because this is exactly what it's for. You have the to-do program, you've got it on the web, you've got it on the phone and tablet. You can create your list, you can bring in lists. So if you have Planner and you've been assigned tasks in Planner, they will show up in your to-do list. If in your email, you know how you can flag emails for follow-up and things like that in Outlook, those show up in here as to-do lists. So you can see all of them in one place. And then every day you get this, what they call a clean slate called My Day, where you open it up and there's nothing on it. And then you can drop stuff on it really quickly with templates, or you can pick from the ones it recommends or the recent ones you added and create your day. And then you get that satisfying ding, when it's done. And when you mark it done there, it's marked done in Planner, it's marked done in Outlook, it follows. So it's a very cool thing. You can create different lists, you can share lists with people. If you're a to-do person, this will be the greatest day of your life. Microsoft Whiteboard is another app that, if you're doing Teams meetings, they've got a whiteboard application. You've all been in a meeting where you've been in a whiteboard and someone's up taking notes, or people run up and they do things. There's a whiteboard app. It's free, comes with Teams. And you go into it and you just, grab a Post-it note, you right click. I mean, it's not, I'm not going to go into exactly all the things, but you can create exactly what you see up here. And you can create, and those loops I was talking about before, you can put loops up here. So you can start a loop here of like a to-do list in that meeting. And then later on, that loop is automatically available everywhere else you use it. So you don't have to go back to the whiteboard anymore. It's cool stuff. It's fun. It's another way to engage people, and it can be productive, but you gotta sit down and learn to use it a little bit. So practice a bit, start with some basic ideas here and just kind of build on. That's with any of these technologies. You may have a really great idea. You've thought, Jeremy, yes, thank you. I think one of these things can solve my problem. It may be a bigger way to use it, or it might be a real simple use of it. But, any of these things, you just want to kind of start to try out, start getting more facile with them. So Microsoft Lists, this is a tool that creates lists. It's very simple. If you're a list person, it's kind of another cut at to-dos in a way, but these are lists. And actually, these lists are stored in SharePoint as what's called a SharePoint list. And you can create all kinds of lists in SharePoint, and you've always been able to do that. What Microsoft did was they created this front end for it that makes it a lot more appealing and a lot easier to use and a lot more portable. So you can create lists of issues. You can create lists of projects. You can say, are they status? Are they on track, off track? These are really cool things. So if you're somebody who likes to do this, you can export it all out to Excel. So if you're the project manager and you want to know how things are, if you're the business owner and you want to keep tabs on things, you want to be able to jump in and say, hey, this one's red. It's been red for a while. What's going on here? Or, hey, how can I help? Can I take this off your plate? Looks like you're having a busy day. What's going on? Like, how can I help today? So, but the only way you're going to know that is having insight into what's happening. This is a great way to get insight, get business intelligence, know what's happening in your world easily without having to fire up a laptop and jump onto a VPN or that kind of thing, log into a system. It's right there at your fingertips. I mentioned getting more information, and this is just a really great thing. Power BI, or business intelligence, is a tool that Microsoft has, and there's other competitors out there in the world, but it's like they call it like a dashboard, a business intelligence tool. So it takes your data and just lets you do things you just really can't do with the data before. Maybe it's maybe you've got a business management system and it's pretty good for, doing the day-to-day stuff, but its reporting is, terrible. Or it doesn't, the basic reporting is good, but you want to be able to do more and they can't give it to you, or they don't, it doesn't, they don't know how to, you don't know how to do it, or they don't give you anything beyond what's in the report, right? They'll say, well, you can look at our database. We'll give you access to the database. If you got access to the database with Power BI, we can pull data in and start getting information and start doing really cool stuff where you can, from the road, from your computer, get information, do drill downs. You can just go crazy, anything you can imagine. And you can pull data from different data sources. So you could have it pull from one database. You could have it pull for another one. Is everyone else seeing the PowerPoint shifting? Is everyone seeing Power BI up here? Someone's, is it working okay for everybody else? Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure why you're not seeing it. Maybe refresh your screen, but it looks like it's working for other people. And for your question, how to train your customers, it's we have a training program. So there's different kinds of training available. There's free training available. There's one-on-one training available. But the training is, that's actually a really great question, is the training is always useful, right? Learning stuff, but it's really more helpful to sit down and look at what you're doing now, because understanding how the business, doing a little business analysis with it, just looking to see what the process is, helps the training be a lot more effective, because then we can target the training initially on what it is that's going to solve those problems, so that you can actually get the problem solved more quickly and not come back from a 2-day training session and now, okay, now go figure out how to make this work and go do that. We can do a little more bite-sized chunks, and we call it just-in-time training. So that's a great question. Thank you. Um, but Power BI, again, great tool. There's a free version if you just want to do it on your own and take your existing Excel spreadsheets, and you can open up those with Power BI and create things like this, and then save these as a PDF and share them with your team. And then there's the online tiers for $10 and $20 a month extra, where you can share them with people inside your organization securely, share them with different groups, different permissions, have drill down features where they can click and, click on that line and actually see what the data is behind it and things like that. Microsoft Stream is an internal YouTube channel. That's just the easiest way to explain it. Most of you know what YouTube is, and it's an internal one. And this is a great thing. Anything, you can record, you can shoot up to stream. It can be a meeting you guys are having. It could be a message from the owner, from the president, for when people are coming on board, part of your onboarding. It could be a video of, how you do that process to, copy the purchase order to the project to, kick off the next step, so people know how to do that for training the new uh, project person. So you can make videos and then put them up there. It's really handy, and it's very easy to use. It works just like you would think it would use. Like if you've used YouTube or anything like that, you upload a video, you name it, and that's it. You can do other stuff with it with other versions, like have it be translated in different languages. Uh, can add closed captioning for you. You can add automatic transcription for searching. So, consider that. I mean, if you're for training and onboarding, it would just be absolutely invaluable. Microsoft 365 Copilot. We have a whole other webinar just on artificial intelligence, and yet another one just on artificial intelligence and using Microsoft 365 Copilot. That is their AI tool. That is what is, if you're hearing anything about AI and ChatGPT and Gemini and all the stuff that's going on in the world with AI, this is Microsoft's product in that space. And it snaps right in with, you get free, there's a free component that you already get with a lot of your Microsoft products for doing some real basic things. It's like everywhere. It's like fruitcake. It's like chock full of fruit and nuts and all that. It is like everywhere you look in Microsoft now, you're finding Copilot prompts and things like that. So they're working that out, but it's useful. And if you haven't tried it, start for searching, for helping you create content. You'll be you might be surprised at what it can do. And when you've got it connected to like your SharePoint information, where you can say, hey, create summarize all the notes in my SharePoint site for client ABC, and it brings up a list of those documents and then summarizes it for you and like really quick, you'll be blown away. Microsoft Bookings. Maybe you've seen Calendly or other services like that out there. Microsoft has one called Bookings. You've got it. If you're using Microsoft, uh, any of the any Microsoft email and calendar, you can create it. It's pretty flexible. You can tell it what, for yourself. You can create a link. You can create public links that say, hey, anyone can schedule you for these times. And you can be, specific about what on your calendar they can use and it'll show what's available when they go to link. You can create private links for people. I used this for a client recently, and it was really handy. I thought, want to give them an easy way to connect, and I didn't want to. I thought, well, if they want to trade calendar, questions back and forth via email to organize that way, I'm totally fine. But if they want to use the link, I'll make it available. So I created what's called a one-time link that was just for that person, and for that, just for that use, and sent it to them. And it was very specific about what I was available for the next 2 weeks because I want to meet in the next 2 weeks. And anywhere I had like a half-hour slot on my calendar, I said, great, grab it. And it worked. It was super handy. We didn't have to go back and forth, and all of a sudden I get a message. So and so has accepted, has booked a meeting with you. So it's very handy for your salespeople. They want to have something where they can have it out and say they want to do, have kind of a salesperson's hours, or they want to be available for clients, for chat, hey, you want to talk to you about your product and service, book a 15-minute appointment. And you set it up on your calendar to make that available. The So try that. I mean, how handy, how much time. Booking is not a subscription. Booking is built. Hi, Jackie. Booking is a built into Microsoft 365. So you have it. It can be a subscription, I think, if you don't have it, but everyone else has it. Super handy. Um, Power Apps. Sometimes, we've got spreadsheets, we've got different things we're building with our standard Office tools, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, things like that. But sometimes an app would just work a little better, right? You can make it a little more clear what needs to be done. You can make it a little more user friendly. You can make it more user proof, people less likely to get into trouble. You can kind of just make sure they can only do what they need to do. And Microsoft has a facility called Power Apps. So instead of sending someone a spreadsheet, you could create a Power App that's a front end to the spreadsheet. So that when they open up that, they can update the spreadsheet by using an app and not having to open that up. And that can be something you can have inside your organization. They can see it, as you can see in the picture, from a phone or a tablet. So, someone on the road, one of your salespeople on the road, you want them to get in and see information or quickly add information to a sales spreadsheet or something like that, or to your database, you can create a little internal app for it. Some of it, there's some out of the box stuff that works pretty well for some interesting things. Some can get tweaked with a little more effort. And then, of course, you can really build out some really complex, interesting things. But this might really solve some problems for you if you got people on the road or people in the warehouse, or the business owner that just wants to see the data. They want to see just a quick, I just want to see these numbers. I don't want to go open a spreadsheet, you know? So there's a lot of really interesting things, and this would be like next level stuff, but some of it is pretty easy. And Power Apps has some other components to it. It's got this thing called Power Automate. And these are actually really easy to use and a way to jump into the Power Platform pretty easily. Um, these are like little workflows, and are like little recipes, and you basically take kind of an input and do an output. So if you look at the first one, it says copy files between OneDrive and Dropbox. So that's something that is like a little widget you can set up. And maybe that's something you do. Maybe you've got internally used OneDrive, but you've got a client that uses Dropbox. And so after you're done with a project, you always got to make sure you upload it to the Dropbox. And sometimes you forget and it's a pain in the butt and you don't get, just an extra thing and all that. You might be able to create a quick, easy workflow. You can create a quick, easy workflow with Power Automate that says, monitor this folder. If I see a new document in here, ship it over to Dropbox for me. We helped a client out with a real simple thing recently where every day or every week, he would get an email report from one of his business management systems. And then he would take that document and send it to his team so they could start working on it. We just created a Power Automate workflow that said, after it comes into the email box, automatically take the attachment and put it into SharePoint where it needs to be and notify the team. Really simple. But now he doesn't have to worry about it happening. It just happens. And his team can get right to work. And if he's on vacation, you're on vacation, it still happens. So you can really be on vacation. So Power Automate is cool, and a lot of you have this, and there's some nifty things you can do. So if you find yourself doing some repetitive tasks, copying information, moving information between things, this may be a solution for you. We're all familiar with the world of social media, right? Facebook and Instagram and all of that, and not get into the talking too much about that. If you got your public pages and all that, that's fine. But sometimes, besides some of the trash that's out there on social media, when it's good, right? And, it might be nice to have it for when it's inside your office and it's kind of just inside your office. And so Microsoft has something called Viva Engage. They used to call it Yammer, which is kind of like an internal Facebook. That's it. It's real straightforward and it might be useful. It kind of depends. Now, some people, you could use this as like a way to connect with your outside team when they're on the road because you can talk back and forth and share. And some people like that. It's easy. So you could use this not as social media, but as a way to actually connect with your people while they're out and engage on issues and answer questions and however you might chat and stuff like that. For other people to see what's going on if they need to, right? If it's around a project or whatever. But it's also could just be social media. Hey, here's what's going on when a lot of you still have remote workers or in a hybrid workforce or, um, you're planning something, a party or something like that. You could use this to do that with. So it's handy that way. And it's nice because it's all inside your office. It's no public people or posting or anything like that. It's not going to use algorithm to start feeding you ads of stuff you're searching on and things like that. It's just kind of an internal system. So if you have a need for something like that, it's nice. Or maybe you may not have a need for it, but maybe your team would like it. Maybe some of your team, if they got a group where they're like, hey, this is how they could see this helping with engagement, and they'd like to do that. Then why not? Right? If they got a team and they're willing to try it out, what's the worst that can happen is you can just say, okay, we tried it, doesn't work. But it's a good way to stay connected. And they have a whole Viva platform, experience platform. And you may see that once in a while show up because there's a free tier. So when you're in Microsoft 365 and something and it says, hey, it looks like you've got a lot of tasks scheduled today. Maybe you should take a break or you see some of that stuff. That's coming from Viva and it's giving you insights about stuff. But if you've got a stressful work environment or you want to improve, how overall engagement with employees, there's some tools in there, insights, learnings. There's ways to, help all of that to help develop your team, right? I always tell people my number one job at Tobin is to build the team. And, we spend a lot of time looking how we engage with people and what we do around that. And so, um, and sometimes it's how do you do it? People have the yearning to do it, but they're looking for some tools and maybe Viva Engage or the Viva Experience platform would be something for you around that. Uh, Sometimes you just have something that Microsoft doesn't have a solution for, right? You've got some other application, you've got some other uh, program like maybe you've still got a desktop application that you use or an on-prem kind of a not a modern, it's still an updated application, but the vendor still only supports it in a kind of a Windows client server model, and you still need that application. But you're thinking, I don't want to have my server anymore, or, we've really just gone fully remote and having a server somewhere doesn't make sense, but we still need access to this application. So Microsoft has a way of providing these virtual servers and virtual even desktops into the cloud in what they call Microsoft Azure. So if you have needs for that, sometimes it's a fit. It's definitely a different animal in terms of pricing, depending on your needs. Sometimes it's an option, if you have to upgrade your server and you're looking at, we have a conversation with you and what I was talking about before in terms of education options and recommendations is to look, because for some people it makes a lot of sense to migrate something like that to the cloud. For some people it doesn't make sense, or when they really dive into the costs, it doesn't make sense because some of these, can have hundreds of dollars or more of fees every month, in some cases thousands of dollars, depending on what your needs are, which isn't a problem if you need it and it works out, but it's not built into your $6.95 a month subscription that Microsoft gives you with your 365. And they've got a lot of other options for moving databases to the cloud and other things. So there's a whole other world of infrastructure, virtual infrastructure and virtual services that Microsoft can provide with Azure at additional cost. So that's that. So that's it. Go play, take a look at your list. Before you sign off, look at your list. Did you come up with any new ideas? Jot those down. I didn't do any of the polls that were set up for me here, so I forgot about those. We had some polls we were going to ask about how you use it and all of that. I suppose I could put those up, but I think you guys get the idea at this point. There's a lot of things to solve business problems here. You're almost always looking, computers since their first days of businesses really noticing them and making them, coming down in size and cost so they can bring them into the office. The dream is how to do more with less, how to automate, how to improve service and things like that. Someone asked about Publisher. Yeah, Publisher is going away. I believe Microsoft has said they've got other tools for publishers, so there is a sunset date on that. I don't know what it is offhand. And as far as comparing to Google Workspace, it's a similar product. There's a variety of services. Some of the core functionality we talked about with file sharing and documents, and Google has a lot of corollaries to almost all of these as well. So yeah, a lot of these work with Windows and iOS and Android. Yeah, great questions. Thank you. So the dream is people have been wanting to use technology like this to improve business, right? To make it easier for everyone involved, for the business owner to be more successful, for the business owner to be, you know, make more money, for the team to be more empowered, to build in accountability, to help serve the customer. I mean, all those reasons that are out there, to save money. Some of these you might be using other tools that you're paying for. Maybe you could switch it to the Microsoft tool and save money that way. You're very welcome, Nancy. Thank you for being here today. So that wraps it up. There's even more I didn't show you, but I was concerned I was going to run out of time. So we'll add it to another future webinar. You're going to be getting a survey. Please complete the survey. Let us know how he did today. Amanda's been on here assisting. Thank you, Amanda, for being here. She organizes all of this and collects all that information and helps us understand, where do we go from here as far as what you want to see in content. And certainly if you see any opportunities where we can help you, let us know. We're available for that. If you just want to have a conversation, we're there for you. And you will get the recording when you get this. It'll be up on YouTube. You'll get PowerPoint slides when you complete that. You're welcome, LJ. And that's it. So I'll just stick around for questions. Otherwise, thank you so much. Be safe and have a great day. We'll see you at the next webinar. Yeah, absolutely, Jackie. Share the webinar with the team, or if you want an in-person demo, we can do that. You'll have the video will be up on YouTube probably later today. Share with the world. Spread the joy. You're welcome. That's what we call these hidden gems. I mean, there's people just have been paying for these things and either using another solution or in some cases they may not have been ready for prime time. Microsoft, develops these like anything else. But some of these tools are just ready to go. All the ones I showed you get some real value from. So I hope you got some good ideas. Put something in your calendar. That's a great action to take to either follow up on the webinar or to review your notes or to organize your internal action team from what you learned or to set aside time for yourself to go in and play and train yourself up. Ideas are great.